Okay, so I'm gonna start by sectioning out the top, and I'll do through the crown a couple different ways, so I wanna explain that to you as we're going along, but I'm starting out by sectioning off just behind the ear, just a tiny bit behind the ear, here. Get that sectioned away. And just behind the ear here. Okay. Those are just temporarily clipping it out of the way so I can get my sections done. So there's that and that. And now I'm gonna split it down the middle in the back. I'm gonna hold my finger at the center and the bottom and just bring my comb down to that point. And with that, you should have a nice even line. If it's not perfectly even, you can straighten it up a little bit. I do try to work with very even sections. I think it just makes my work cleaner. And then to clip this away, I'm gonna take it around my fingers, grab it, twist once, and then I'm gonna put my frame art clip through that. And that should hold it there pretty well. And on this side, just once. And these hold the hair pretty well. They're not perfect, and so you can use multiple clips if you need to. This is the side I'm gonna start on, and just to keep this nice and clean, I will be subdividing this as I get over here, but for now, I'm just gonna go right over that little twist there. Just hold that in place. Okay, so here's our sectioning here, and then in the back. Okay, so now, through this part here, I want to go in and subdivide that. And we're just gonna pin that out of the way, and we'll be starting right through here. Okay, so when I am doing any type of money piece in the front, what I like to think of it like, I wanna ask them if they're gonna be doing a very subtle money piece, more of a medium boldness, or a very bold money piece. And depending on their answer and through our consultation, that will tell me if I'm gonna do 4 back-to-back foils here for something more subtle, if I'm gonna do 6 for something a little more bold but not screaming, or if they're wanting something very bold, you know, something very bright coming around the face, then I'm actually gonna do 8 foils. So for this purpose today, we're gonna do 6, so we'll just do right in the middle. And what I'm gonna do is starting right at her front hairline, a little tiny baby piece. And on a person's hair, you're gonna be able to get this a lot finer. On a doll head, it's really hard to get these little hairline sections really nice and fine. So we'll start there, but we want this to be like a baby light, something very, very fine here. If you need your client to tip because it hurts your back, have them tip a little bit so you're working on a little bit of a flatter surface. And we're gonna go ahead and do a baby light right here. And for a baby light, you're probably gonna be picking up about more than 12 pieces, I would say, on a person. Sometimes a doll head, again, their hair kind of lays thick, and so it might be a little less, but a very fine effect, or a baby light, you're gonna be up in the 12, picking up about 12 pieces there. Okay. Make sure you can see that. So about a 1/4 inch away from the end of the foil is where I start placing that bleach, and I'll work my way up to the top. I'm gonna bring it up like a traditional highlight all the way up. You wanna be really careful when you're doing this, especially if you're working with a brand that expands. The way the doll head hair is put in there, it wants to flip up. So let me get that out of the way. Okay. and then we're gonna run that down through the end. So you wanna be really careful because we're working against gravity here. That foil is gonna wanna pull on you. So go ahead and put your hand there and kind of hold up and support that foil and that hair. And go ahead and run that color all the way through if you're doing a virgin application and their ends can handle you running color through. And this is something you'd need to establish in your consultation on whether you can run color all the way through their ends. Now this being a doll head with nothing but the factory color on there, we're gonna be running it all the way through. And see how gravity's kind of pulled that down? I do wanna bring that back up again before I fold this up. And I am gonna teach you to fold this up twice to lock it in, especially as you're starting out, because as you're starting out, you're gonna have issues with it wanting to slip, and double locking it in is gonna help you. And that also helps you if you're needing to run color in between your foils. It's not gonna slip as much on you and you won't end up with bleed marks. So we're gonna do a double fold here. I brought that foil all the way up to the section. Very gently get any creases out there. You don't want to push over that hair. And then the width of that section is where you're going to fold it. Here and there. Okay. Now we're going to work on our next one. Back to back with this technique. I wouldn't be doing this if I was doing a traditional foil, but this is more of a foilage type of application where we're going for a money piece. So we want that right back to back with the first foil. And I'm going to do 3 of these. Back to back. Again, we're doing a little baby light. I take that hair and put that into the fold there to keep it out of the way. And you really want to make sure that this hair is saturated all the way underneath. If you're not sure, lift it up and make sure you see that color going all the way through. And then we're just going to gently put those ends back up in there. You don't want to try to get them all tangled or swirl them up as much as possible. Try to be very gentle with those ends. Again, working against gravity, that's wanting to fall, so I'm going to lift that up. Taking my brush perpendicular to the section, I'm going to take that and pull those pieces back down. Now you'll notice that I make sure that when I fold that, this is completely even with the foil. I don't want to fold this piece over my comb crooked, because then when I go to fold this part, I'm going to have a crooked section, and I want these all to be very clean and to lay perfectly symmetrical. Get the folds out of there, the bends out of there. Give myself a little crease, fold again. Holding it in place always without pressure and folding it down. Okay, and the last. Back to back foil all the way down to the scalp. Section that out, put that on the fold there. And last foil brought all the way up before we start back combing. On a doll head, I'm using a very high developer so we can really be able to see it when I'm done. On a person, even if I was trying to lift through a lot, I would not be using a very high developer. Typically, I would say the majority of the time, I'm actually using 10 volume around the front hairline. Occasionally, I might bump that up to like a 10-20, but typically 10 volume is gonna get you the lift you need. And you want to make sure, since you're starting at the front, that you make sure you check it and pull it out as soon as it's done. You don't want it sitting there processing the entire time you're foiling the rest of the hair, or the entire time the rest of the hair is processing. Okay, so we have our 3 back-to-back foils, and now this next one is going to be backcombed. And I'm going to do more of a medium effect on this, which means I'm only pulling up about 6 pieces for this first one. And then after that, if I want something really bold, I can actually do slices, or I can continue to weave it. Caught it. All right, so now we're going to transition to using the board. I'm going to take it and fold it over nice and even. Place your board there. Okay, so we're going to do that again for 2 more foils, so we have a total of 6. Grabbing the board, folding this over. Oh, nope, got her back home. Okay, folding in thirds. So this is our 5th one. Now we're working on our 6th. And if you want to end it kind of bold, you can do a slice again. I'm just going to do all weaves on here. And we're still working back to back. If you want a softer effect, you can keep spaces between it. I would definitely encourage you to get creative with this and don't feel locked into anything. sometimes as you do this, you are going to end up messing up some of your back combing. Don't worry about it too much. You're going to have such a soft line that it shouldn't show. Plus, we're going to go back and root it with a demi color, so you don't have to worry too much. Okay. Get this out of the way, and now we're going to work here. And so that we can get nice and tight into that front hairline, we're going to do 3 back-to-back foils here as well. And this really helps by subdividing it. You don't end up with a dark patch right here. And that will happen a lot as you're working around the hairline. And don't hesitate to break this into as many sections as you need to try to get nice coverage around that front hairline. It's okay to do more than 2 sections or 2 subsections. Okay, so we're going to go back to our baby light. Again, on a person, this is going to be a much finer piece of hair here, a nice, much finer section. The doll heads tend to have very thick front hairlines, and so this is like a massive amount of hair for the front hairline. Okay. Get that as close in there as you can. With a person, you'll be right up to that section. With a doll head, it's always going to slip and push out a little bit. Closing that right at the end of that section, and again here, and I'm going to go mix up some more color. I mix my color in very small batches because you don't want that bleach to oxidize. It does lose its lifting power after a while, so you want to keep very small batches. If you're not very quick, I would usually say between 12 and 15 grams of your bleach, and then whatever developer ratio you're doing on top of that. Because she's got long hair, and I'm running it all the way through, I am mixing up in 20-gram increments of the bleach and then 40 grams of developer. I don't mind it being a little more liquidy. I want it to the consistency where if I pick it up, it doesn't drip. Okay, it's pretty hot up here, so I added a little tiny bit more bleach to there. Look at that, already wanting to slip. If you find that something's slipping at the front hairline and you think it's gonna cause an issue with bleeding or anything like that, you can open it back up, bring that up again. Don't have very much color on your brush, and just go back through and pull that down a little bit. Okay. And like that and that. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to gather this section together, and we're going to do our final 3 foils right behind here. The first one I'm going to take is going to even this out so that the next 2 foils can be a little more even. So it's going to be a slight triangle, but it's back comb, so it's okay because it's not going to be super close to the scalp. Tip them down a little bit, and now we're doing more of a medium effect. And again, you can do slices. You can make this as bold or as fine as you want to, just depending on the look you're going for. Now we're going back to our triple fold here, 1 or 3 section fold or whatever. Again, not creasing over that bleach. Definitely don't want to cause a dark spot. This is another reason why it's nice to have a towel, so I can just get that off my hand. Okay. And then our last section. This is our last foil here. Checking, and you can see it's not saturated there. saying fold up 3 times, but I mean the foil is in thirds, so folding it in thirds. I don't know if I said that when I was explaining it. Okay, so before I move on to the sides, I do want to explain a couple different ways I might do this. The first way is if I am trying to blend someone's gray, I will do sometimes traditional foils throughout the entire front hairline with some back-to-back right at the front. And then I go back and I root it, and the rooting with the demi will blend their gray, and having the highlights right down to the root will also help blend the gray, and it just gives you more of a dimensional look. It's not as, you're not going to see those ribbons of color as much through the crown, but you're still going to have that underneath. So that's a great option if someone has gray but is still wanting this look. For today, I'm going to go up at a diagonal and pivot to having it horizontal from where I'm working on her part line. If you don't know their part line, that's okay. You're going back and rooting it anyway, so no matter what, it's going to work. But we're assuming for her that she's parted down the middle, and so I'm just going to do all the way up to that middle line. And let's get started. I'm going to do this in slices, but you can, for a softer look, you can weave it, and we're still going to back comb it as well. And we want those dark pops between these foils for this particular look. So the first one I'm going to do is here. And this is going to give us a nice ribbon of dark right behind that money piece, but then also give us another ribbon of blonde above that. Our last section at the hairline, and this one's going to be more of a baby light. We don't want anything too thick because when it's a back-to-back like that, it can end up looking stripy. You can also leave a little section between and only do right below that part line. Again, there's just so many options, and you'll start developing what you like to see as you start doing this service. Onto the back, and also to make it more comfortable for your client, you can always bend these back away from her face a little bit. That way it's not just hanging right on her forehead, and then pull that away so that it's more comfortable for her. Alright, so we're going to change ankles here because my phone went dead, and now I don't have my microphone anymore, so I'm just going to be able to see what I'm doing, but I'll end up having to silence it. Okay, so let's go over what I like to use for doing a toning service. So we've got her all rinsed out, we've got her combed out and detangled, and we're ready to start applying her base color, her root tap, root smudge, root, whatever you want to call it, and then running the toner through the ends. So to do that, my favorite tools are either of these brushes. Both are by Crest. I don't know the exact names, but this is what they look like. I love the Framar big brushes, so that's this one here. And they're a nice size, especially when you're rooting the hair. They cover a lot of space really fast, and they're very efficient. Of course, we've got our Framar clips, those are great. And then having a detangling brush is great as well. The one I prefer is this one here, which is the Epic Wet Brush. This one works great as well, but you have the padding inside there, so sometimes color and stuff can get in there, and it's a little bit more challenging to clean and soak. So this one works great, but I brought over both so you can see. And of course, gloves. Okay, so when I'm going to be doing a root and melting the color through the ends, I'm trying to usually match the root as close as possible to the natural hair, and that's gonna help break up that line. And when I'm bringing it down, I'm gonna bring it just past the line of where I applied the bleach, because there's always a little band of color that's a little warmer. If you cover over that about 1/4 of an inch, it's gonna get rid of that band or that line and make a really nice smooth transition and a great grow out for your client. So we're gonna start by sectioning ear to ear, and just get that out of the way. So we're gonna work on this section last in the front. I always like to work back to front. And mostly because I want the front to be the brightest, so I'm okay if it's not on there as long as it's sitting on the back. So I'm going to tip her down a little bit so that I can reach under here, under her neckline. I'm going to gather all the hair in my hand. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to be gathering all of her hair in my left hand. I'm going to twist up, and I'm going to apply the root color. And I'm going to do several sections, and then I'll go back and run the color through the ends. So again, I want to overlap where I applied the original foils. Bring that down. And I want to overlap about 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to get each side of the section. Sorry. So I've rooted and I've run it through that first section, and now I'm going to keep moving on, and I'm going to root the next several sections. And for my root color, I've got a 6, and for my ends, I have a 9. As it starts getting wider around the head, I'll take down like one side and then the other side, just to make it a little easier to handle all this hair. Do whatever you need to do to be able to control the hair. You just don't want to lose control of your sectioning and your combing and that kind of stuff. Let's turn her just a smidge so I can be out of the way. Okay, and then I'm going to section this up again. Make sure there's no color on it. And we're going to run that through the ends. And make sure this is nice and saturated. And when I'm blending these two colors together, I always joke and say, comb and comb and comb, and if you think you're done combing, comb some more. You really want this to be nice and blended. Because it's gonna make the grow out seamless, it's gonna make the color seamless. You're not gonna see any choppiness, anything like that in the hair. So it really is important to comb it well. Good. We're gonna start here and work towards the front hairline, bringing the hair back. And I'm gonna end at the front here. I like to do wherever the part is on either side of the part. That way, however we root it, looks even on either side of the part. So like that, I'm gonna section that out. And just apologize to your client that it's going to be hanging over their face a little bit. Okay, so here is the finished result. I'll bring her up a little bit closer. You can see that money piece here in the front. Parted her to the side because that's the way the hair is placed, and so it did not want to part in the middle. You can see all that beautiful dimension. It lightened it quite a bit, actually. So if you wanted that bolder, you would do 8. So put 2 more. I mean, I've even done as many as 10 if someone wanted like a really big chunk of blonde here. And it just got toned. I let it sit on for quite a while actually, so it's probably a little bit brighter than this underneath. And then if you didn't want it this bold, again, I would do 4 back-to-back foils. So pretty. This is like, so when you do wear it back, it's just really seamless, beautiful blend, but you still see a lot of those pops of color, and everything's blended from the root down. So thank you for watching. And here is some real life videos of this same exact technique. You can see that on a person that's doesn't have factory fabric dye on it, it lifts really beautifully. You can see all that dimension. It's just such a pretty technique. And again, it's something that you could just really customize to what you're wanting to see and what your client's wanting to see. Here's that same client with her hair curled. And here's another exact same technique, just on shorter hair. Beautiful ribbons of color, grows out really pretty. Here on darker hair, just kind of zoomed in so you can really see the dimension in there. And one last example of darker hair, different client, and it comes out really nice. I hope you love it.